Hello, my name is Nishat Noor and welcome to Millennium Headlines. This week's top headlines are: Trump grapples with campaign catastrophe ahead of debate. 5 high schoolers killed in wrong-way crash on Vermont highway. Matthew moving on, but the danger isn't. Saudis to probe Yemen airstrike that hit funeral home. Did someone at hospital switch multiple babies on purpose? President Obama's weekly address. Now the details to this week's top headlines. A defiant Donald Trump made final debate preparations Sunday while facing an unprecedented constellation of problems. Crude remarks on tape he made about women, falling poll numbers, and an expanding list of Republicans who want him to somehow exit the presidential race. As Trump flew from New York City for the debate site at Washington University in St. Louis, the GOP presidential nominee served notice he is preparing to attack those Republicans who are abandoning him in the wake of his comments about groping women. Trump also tweeted out a Breitbart News interview with Juniata Broderick, a woman who once accused Bill Clinton of a sexual assault, a sign that he may raise past allegations against the former president in Sunday night's debate. A variety of Republicans, from former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice to members of the House and Senate, including the party's 2008 presidential nominee, John McCain, said they simply find Trump's comments about women unacceptable. While I continue to respect those who still support Donald Trump, I can no longer support him, says Senator Rob Portman, Republican, Ohio, who plans to write in the name of Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus also attacked Trump's comments about women amid reports that the party may redirect or even pull efforts designed to help his presidential nominee. During Trump's flight to St. Louis, however, a campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, tweeted out a picture showing Priebus aboard the candidate's plane. Trump is pictured on the phone speaking to Pence, according to the Conway tweet.
You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it.
Just for the record, though, are you saying that what you said on that bus 11 years ago, that you did not actually kiss women without consent or grope women without consent?
I have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
So for the record, you're saying you never did that?
I said things that, frankly, you hear these things are said. And I was embarrassed by it, but I have tremendous respect for women.
Have you ever done those
women
things?
Have respect for me.
I said starting back in June that he was not fit to be president and commander-in-chief.
I am a person who has great respect for people, for my family, for the people of this country, and certainly I'm not proud of it. But that was something that happened. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation. And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. And I hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
That first one goes to Secretary Clinton because you started out the last one to the audience.
If he wants to start, he can start.
Go
ahead, Hillary. No, go ahead, Donald.
No, I'm a gentleman, Hillary. Go ahead.
Secretary Clinton.
And we have to be sure that Muslims come in and report when they see something going on.
Unfortunately, there's been a lot of very divisive, dark things said about Muslims. I intend to defeat ISIS, to do so in a coalition with majority Muslim nations. Right now, a lot of those nations are hearing what Donald says and wondering, why should we cooperate with the Americans? We are not at war with Islam. And it is a mistake, and it plays into the hands of the terrorists to act as though we are.
And she said things, WikiLeaks, that just came out. And she lied. Now she's blaming the lie on the late, great Abraham Lincoln. That's one that I haven't. Okay, Honest Abe. Honest Abe never lied. That's the good thing. That's the big difference between Abraham Lincoln and you. That's a big, big difference.
4 of the 5 teenagers who were killed in a crash on Interstate 89 late Saturday night have been identified as juniors at Harwood Union Middle/High School, according to news released from the school's co-principal Amy Rex. A wrong-way driver in a pickup caused the initial crash, police said. A man then stole a police cruiser that was responding to the scene. While in the cruiser, the man caused several more crashes, injuring several people before he was ejected from the car and the vehicle burst into flames, Vermont State Police Captain Mike Henry said.
After state police say a man driving the wrong way down the interstate on Saturday night hit their vehicle, killing the group of friends. 36-year-old Stephen Bourgeois was headed north on Interstate 89 in his Toyota Tundra, but he was in the southbound lane when, according to police, he crashed head-on into the Volkswagen Jetta the teens were in. It burst into flames. As police were trying to save a female victim, Bourgeois allegedly jumped into a police cruiser and drove away. Officials say he then crashed into 7 more vehicles before he was ejected from the cruiser, which also caught fire. The 5 teenagers killed in the first crash were, according to police, 16-year-olds Eli Brookins, Liam Hale, Mary Harris, and Cyrus Zhao, and 15-year-old Janie Causey. 4 of the 5 victims attended Harwood Union High School. Bourgeois was taken into custody and transported to the University of Vermont Medical Center. He is listed in critical condition and has not yet been charged. He was due in court next month for an unrelated domestic violence incident. In May, he was arrested for domestic assault and unlawful restraint after he allegedly threatened to throw his girlfriend down the stairs and kill both her and their 2-year-old child. He has denied those allegations.
Matthew, now a post-tropical cyclone, was to begin its slow exit overnight Sunday off the East Coast, but the danger isn't over. The death toll has increased to 8 in North Carolina and 5 people are missing, Governor Pat McCrory said late Sunday afternoon. Overall, the death toll across the southeast from the storm is 17, according to the Associated Press. McCroney warned that the storm is still a threat because massive rains aren't expected to peak in rivers for another day or 2. Rainfall totals 16 inches in Tar Heel, 15 in Goldsboro, 12 in Fayetteville, 9 in Raleigh, and 16 in Wilmington, he said. More than 200 people were rescued from the Pinetop section of Rocky Mount, including 8 people plucked from rooftops by a Coast Guard helicopter. The MH-60 Jayhawk aircrew carried the residents to Pitt Greenville Airport. Commander Scott Coser, Assistant Operations Officer at Air Station Elizabeth City, said crews are standing by to help more. Coast Guard also rescued 2 people Saturday night after their vessel ran aground near Charlotte, North Carolina. The 2 were stranded on the marshy island in the Lockwood Foley River after their fishing boat in Cocopia ran aground about 8 p.m. with about 300 gallons of diesel fuel aboard. The 2 were stranded on a marshy island in the Lockwood Foley River after their fishing boat, Cocopia, ran aground about 8 p.m. with about 300 gallons of diesel fuel aboard. An MH-60 Jayhawk launched about 8 p.m. from Air Station Savannah in Georgia and picked the people up about midnight. Power is out for about 760,000 North Carolinians, largely in the eastern part of the state. Many roads are closed, including 4 sections of Interstate 95, a major north-south artery in the state. The Federal Emergency Management Agency urged residents returning home or in affected areas to listen to state, local, and tribal officials to avoid dangerous flooding in Matthew's aftermath for the next 48 hours. The agency warned that flood water could be charged by downed power lines or could hide dangerous debris. Moving water just 6 inches deep could knock down a person, and fast-moving water could sweep away a car, the agency said. Flash floods are the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States, FEMA Administration Craig Fugate said, as people head back home to assess damage to its vitals. They do not drive through flooded roadways, avoid downed power lines, and stay off the roads to let first responders do their work. Turn around, don't drown.
I heard a small noise, a crackle in the bedroom. I heard something against the window. I didn't realize it was the whole tree. I thought it was maybe a big part of it broke off.
As nightfall hit, the winds increased, and it was just constant wind. All my windows just immediately got blown out. I lost power. All the fencing around my house just went down like matchsticks.
The Saudi government said Sunday that it would investigate reports that an airstrike hit a packed funeral home in Yemen's capital, killing more than 140 people and injuring hundreds. The Saudis said U.S. experts could assist with the investigation into Saturday's attack in Sana'a. In a statement, the Saudi-led coalition called the bombing regrettable and painful and expressed condolences.
Survivors described how they stumbled among charred bodies and body parts. Dozens died and hundreds were wounded at a funeral in Sana'a.
We came here when the first strike hit and tried to get help. Then another strike. It caused a terrible massacre. Hundreds are under the rubble. They came to mourn, not to fight. They didn't raise weapons.
Houthi civilian and military leaders are among the dead and injured. They'd gathered to condole the death of the father of the Houthi Saleh administration's interior minister. The large number of injured needing treatment caused hospitals to declare an emergency. It was one of the worst ever single emergencies in Sana'a. Survivors said they were targeted by airstrikes.
We went to attend the funeral of al-Rawashan, and then the first airstrike targeted us. People ran away, and while they were running, a second airstrike hit us. Most of the people were burned and many others were injured.
We came here to donate our blood to those who got hurt in the airstrike at the funeral.
Pro-Houthi activists posted this video accusing the Saudi-led coalition of 2 airstrikes. The US government says it's considering further reductions in support for the military campaign. The Saudi-led coalition is promising to help investigate. It says the coalition command will provide the inquiry team with data and information related to military operations carried out in the area and its surrounding on that day, and the results will be announced immediately after the conclusion of the investigation. 10,000 people have been killed in the 19-month-long war in Yemen. Houthi fighters backed by former President Ali Abdullah Saleh are battling government forces supported by the Saudi-led alliance of Arab and Gulf countries. Human rights groups have accused Houthi rebels of violations and the coalition of indiscriminate attacks in civilian areas. Several diplomatic attempts to stop the war have failed, so the suffering continues for the people of the poorest country in the Arabian Peninsula. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police are investigating after revelations that 2 different sets of babies at least were switched at birth at the same hospital 41 years ago, the Associated Press reports. The RCMP has an obligation to the families involved and to the public to determine if the incidents at the Norway House Indian Hospital were accidentally or criminal in nature. CBC quotes the RCMP as saying in a statement Friday. It's really basically to determine if there was any criminal intent for these babies being switched at birth, RCMP spokesperson Robert Cyrene tells the Canadian press. He says the investigation will be difficult because so much time has passed. Police are hoping to speak with anyone who worked at the Manitoba Hospital in 1975 or who had friends or family that did. Childhood friends Luke Monias and Norman Barkman discovered last year via DNA test they had been switched at birth. A DNA test confirmed the same about acquaintances Leon Swanson and David Tate this year. All 4 men were born at the Norway House Indian Hospital in 1975. All told, 239 babies were born at the hospital that year. It's possible others were switched at birth and don't know it. Manitoba Aboriginal Affairs Minister Eric Robinson says he's glad someone is finally taking this matter seriously. You can pass it off once and a second time kinda makes you wonder, he tells the Canadian press. Was it an act of racism? Was it an act of neglect? Health Canada is offering free DNA tests to anyone born at the hospital before 1980. In this week's address, President Obama highlighted wage growth over the course of his presidency. Since 2012, real wages have grown about 20 times faster than they did for almost 3 decades between 1980 and 2007. Last year, typical household income rose by $2,800, the single largest increase on record.
Hi, everybody.
Across every race and age group in America, incomes rose and poverty rates fell, and 3.5 million people were lifted out of poverty, the largest one-year drop in the poverty rate since 1968. Thanks in part to states and communities that have raised the minimum wage, lower and middle income families saw the biggest boost in incomes. Although we have made significant progress, the president said more work needs to be done to strengthen the middle class, and this starts with a Congress that will put politics aside and act on common sense ideas.
But because the policies we put in place are working families are finally seeing their wages and incomes rise too. Since 2012, wages have grown around 20 times faster than they did over the almost 3 decades between 1980 and 2007. Last year, folks' typical household income rose by $2,800. That's the single biggest increase on record. And across every race and age group in America, incomes rose and poverty rates fell. We lifted 3.5 million people out of poverty, the largest one-year drop in the poverty rate since 1968. What's more, lower and middle-income families saw the biggest boost in incomes, in part because 18 states and the district, as well as more than 50 communities, have given millions of Americans a raise by raising the minimum wage. And states that have raised their minimum wage have seen stronger earnings growth in low-wage jobs compared to states that have not. Strengthening benefits at work helps too. Last week, for example, I took action to make sure up to 1 million more workers can earn 7 days of paid sick leave on the job. We're also helping states expand opportunities for workers to save for retirement. But there's a lot more we should do to strengthen the middle class and help more Americans get ahead. Making childcare more affordable, for example. Making sure women earn equal pay for equal work. Guaranteeing paid family and sick leave. Increasing the federal minimum wage. Preparing workers for the jobs of the future, and closing tax loopholes that benefit just the wealthy and big corporations. Now, we just need a Congress that cares about these issues, one that will finally put politics aside and act on these common sense ideas. That's how we'll build on the progress we've made over these past 8 years and achieve one thing we should all agree on: securing a brighter future for all of our children. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for watching Millennium Headlines. This has been Nishat Noor. See you next week.